wisdom. Let us affirm this month's affirmation together. I draw upon Spirit to guide my thoughts, words, and actions. Read that to yourself again. And together. I draw upon Spirit to guide my thoughts, words, and actions. Amen.
When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. And now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. There used to be a world out there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-downs. Now I walk with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That may be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then, 'cause everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-downs, but I'm walking with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Everything is holy. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything
Thank you all. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Reverend Edward Trout. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an ordained interfaith minister through One Spirit Seminary out of New York. It is my pleasure to be your speaker here today. I want to start with a story from Paulo Coelho. If you want to go to the next slide. An old story tells us that one day a countryman knocked hard on a monastery door. When the monk tending the gates opened up, he was given a magnificent bunch of grapes. Brother, these are the finest my vineyard has produced. I've come to bear them as a gift. Thank you. I'll take them to the abbot immediately. He'll be delighted with this offering. No, said the countryman, I brought them for you. Whenever I knock on the door, it is you who opens it. When I needed help because the crop was destroyed by drought, you give me a piece of bread and a cup of wine every day. The monk held the grapes and spent the entire morning admiring it, decided to deliver the gift to the abbot anyway, who had always encouraged him with words of wisdom. The abbot was very pleased with the grapes, but he recalled that there was a sick brother in the monastery and thought, I'll give him the grapes. Who knows, they may bring him some joy in his life. And that is what he did. But the grapes didn't stay with the sick monk. The cook, he thought, has looked after me for so long, feeding me only the best meals. I'm sure he will enjoy these. So the sick monk gave them to the cook, who was amazed at the beauty of the grapes, so perfect that no one would appreciate them more than the sexton who took care of the monastery grounds. Many at the monastery considered him a holy man. He would be best qualified to value this marvel of nature. The sexton, in turn, gave the grapes as a gift to the youngest novice, that he might understand that the work of God is in the smallest details of creation. When the novice received them, he remembered the first time he came to the monastery and of the person who had opened the gate for him. It was that gesture which allowed him to be among this community of people who knew how to value the wonders of life. And so just before nightfall, he took the grapes to the monk at the gate. Eat and enjoy them, he said, for you spend most of your time alone here. These grapes will make you very happy. The monk understood that the gift had truly been destined for him, and he relished each of the grapes before falling into a pleasant sleep. Thus the circle was closed, the circle of happiness and joy, which always shines brightly around generous people. Such a sweet story. And there are so many spiritual truths within that story. They don't often play out that quickly in one day's time, but they do play out. But one of the reasons why I wanted to start with this story is the choice the monk made in the very beginning. He accepted the grapes at first on behalf of the abbot, and then he was told, no, these are explicitly for you, and he still gave them to the abbot. Why do you think that was? This is an actual question. Why do you think that was? What was that? Perhaps he didn't think he was worthy. Anything else? Generosity. Paying it forward. Perhaps a leftover protocol, right? Even when we are given the gifts that we are given, we so often go, oh, I don't deserve it. Oh, it's supposed to go to somebody else. Oh, let me be generous with it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be generous, but I am saying you first have to accept your gifts, right? It has to be yours first. So in this season of Lent, which is about giving things up, giving things away, there's a pamphlet, I believe there's a slide of that I mentioned a couple weeks ago called In the Garden. It's one of the many free publications from Unity Village. So go online, if you're ever looking for materials, you can get free things, absolutely free. They will ask if you want to give them money for it, but you don't have to. They will just send you things just because you ask. And we always sign up for them because there's always wisdom in each one. In this particular publication, this booklet, Reverend Ellen Debenport, who is a journalist turned Unity minister, she's also in charge, or at least vice president of publishing and content. She had a section that was specifically written for today. Normally, you'll have daily affirmations and things. Like in this last week, we let go of several things during the week, but today, she wrote about this, and this is a summary. This is not everything she wrote, but she wrote about how on the night of his arrest, Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane, asking for guidance, praying for guidance. In Matthew 26:39, he says, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." So within that one sentence or sentence and a half, he moved from reluctance and doubt to surrender. One step right to the next. And to be clear, he was not appealing to some distant God, some white-haired man on a throne in heaven. He was appealing to the indwelling God, to his own soul's purpose. He knew under Roman rule, his teachings were seen as radical. And under that, at the time, Jewish temple, his teachings were seen as radical. He was considered a rabble-rouser, a rebel. How different would things be if he was like, yeah, I know this is my soul's purpose, but I'm just not going to ride into Jerusalem. You know, Pontius is riding in at the same time. I don't think it's going to end well for me. Or maybe when I go to the temple and I see all the money changers and I get really mad, but turn the other cheek, right? Don't kick him out. Don't make a scene. How different would things be if he verbally accepted his soul's journey but never acted on it? So he didn't change his message. He continued to carry out his soul's purpose. And like all of us, he couldn't skip the human steps. We have a soul purpose, but we've got a lot of humanness to get through, and we can't skip it. Jesus' example is for us to accept our divine challenge, and it's different for each of us. Whatever that calling is, we are supposed to play it out. Whatever we are called to do, that is ours to do. And trust that our impact from that will be larger than ourselves, right? I was having a discussion earlier this week with somebody about free will and giving things up to God. We give up a lot to God, right? How many times have we released and let go? How many times have we put things into the burning bowl? Beautiful ceremony. I love the ceremony, right? It's about release. And you still have to do your work. It's not like, I'm just going to turn this all over to God, and now I sit back and I'm just going to have a coffee and watch some TV. You are not a spectator in your own life. You turn the control over to the divine. You still have to do your work. That's part of being human, right? So, that acceptance, which in Jesus' case led to his arrest and his execution, and he knew that would be the result. That acceptance and that release of that control, that's all that we are called to do too, right? We are supposed to release the control, but we have to step into what is ours to do. In improvisation, which I've had an improv background for the last 30 plus years, that process is known as yes and. You tell me something, my goal is to agree with you and then add to it, right? I don't fight it. I accept that and add to it. For me, this is also a life skill, because how many times does something come up that I just want to go, no. But if it's the truth, if I cannot change it, I cannot move forward until I've accepted that reality. Otherwise, I'm stuck wanting something to be different without any ability to change it. That does nobody any good. I want you to think about this for a moment in your own life. And I will say, too, in improv, it's considered a method of exploration, right? I'm making a choice. I'm adding two things, but I can't dictate everything. We sometimes refer to it as, hey, when you're creating this, you bring a brick, not a cathedral. You have your part to add. Everybody is adding to it. So I want you to think about your life in that respect, because I can guarantee you, for everybody in this room, you've had something that came up that you were not wanting, that were not expecting. It may have been completely unfair, and you had to accept it. And then you had to choose how you moved forward after that. Thinking about it is great. I want you to share it. I want you to turn to somebody, ideally somebody you don't know or don't know well. You may have to get up and find them. This is the scary part. We may have to leave our seats and talk to people. It's okay. But I want you to find that person. You'll get like a minute to relate to them what the thing was that came up, the thing that you were not expecting, not wanting, that unfairness in your life. So what did you have to accept? In order to accept it, what did you have to let go of? Control, fear, whatever it is. And then, crucially, that next step, what did you do to move forward? 3 parts. What did you have to accept? What did you have to let go of in order to accept it? What did you choose to do to move forward? You each get to share, so like a minute each maximum. I will actually time you because I know how you all are. I give you a minute, you take half an hour. So find your partner, share those things. What was it? What did you have to let go of? And how did you choose to move forward? Just know I'm on mic. So, what was it you had to accept?
That my last job was probably my worst experience.
So what did you have to let go of?
I'm so what I wanted versus what
And your choice to move forward?
stick with it until I'm ready to
Yeah.
as long as I want to.
Yes. And once you can give up that control, then it becomes your choice. It's not a I'm stuck and suffering. It's like I know what this is, and as long as I can stay here, I will. And when I'm ready, I will go. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. All right, let's gently start finding our way back to our seats. I know it always takes a moment for chatter to die down again. So as you are moving your way back, thank you all, by the way, for sharing. There's some vulnerability in that, but there's also some camaraderie in that. And it's one thing to notice the things in your life. It's another to share them. Because once we share them, they become this thing out in the world rather than something that we just carry, right? So this process of acceptance and letting go, see, like, I let go of control, right? I accept that people will continue to talk. I know it. It's okay. I know. But I want to go back to the story I started with for just a second. So the monk and the grapes. Back to the monk, the first monk at the gate was given the grapes. That was something unexpected, not unpleasant, but unexpected. So, in theory, he did accept the grapes, right? He took them into the monastery. There was an acceptance there, and in order to accept them, he had to let go of any idea that it was unworthy of bringing them in, or he shouldn't be the one to get them. He had to accept that he was the one to bring them in, and yet his choice was very different than what the giver of the grapes would have chosen. His and of the yes and was, and I'm going to pay them forward, or follow the protocol, or whatever it might be. Ultimately, of course, they found their way back to him. And at that moment, they've turned back up. Acceptance again, letting go of the pushing away. And his choice was to realize they really are meant for me. And this is my path, and I'm going to eat them because I deserve small joys, even if I don't think I do. Alchemy is in the title of today's talk, specifically mystical alchemy. So a mystic experience tends to be a personal spiritual experience. Alchemy, I think we are all familiar with in the form of the ancient practice of trying to turn base metals into gold, like lead into gold. Also, it involved the making of the elixir of life, where you could extend life and you could cure diseases. So I used alchemy because we're talking about the baser things, the human things, and how do we take our humanity and all that comes with it, all the good, all the bad, all the struggles of humanity, and turn that into alchemical gold and spiritual gold. The daily word for today had the scripture from Psalm 118:24. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Some people take that as a daily practice. You get up in the morning and that is what you recite, which is a beautiful thing because that means no matter whether you're looking at a great day or a rough day, you understand the divine in it. The good, the bad, the difficult. 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the recent death of my brother and how one of his sons said a prayer right before he was taken off of the breathing tube and the medications. And the prayer started with, "Dear Lord, thank you for this day." The day he knew his father was taking his last breath, he started with that gratitude, right? Everything's holy. Every moment is holy. The fact that we exist is holy. How often we overlook that. Because, life wants to pull us away from that. Has a good way of doing it, in fact. Reverend Charles Roth, who was a minister here for many years, built this sanctuary, used to talk about gold dust in the air, the concept of gold dust in the air, that you could just reach out and grab it. In that, he was talking about the invisible substance of the divine, that energy that is all around us, that is us. It's the energy and the field of all possibilities, and we so limit it by our perceptions. In a world where anything is possible, we often settle for the lead, not the gold. Because that's what we're taught. Because it feels easier and more comfortable, when in fact it just weighs us down. So, as with the grapes in the story, we sometimes let our joy fall away. We don't take those moments. We don't think we deserve it, or we don't think we have time for it. I've got all this to do. I can't take time for an hour with friends, or whatever it is, whatever the thing is that brings you joy. And yet, as David Allen Brown was saying last week, if you love someone, don't you want them to experience the things that bring them joy? So, working under our true belief that we are loved by the divine, God, the universe, whatever name you want to give it, wants you to find your joy. It is there for you. So when it comes to you, that is a signal that, hey, you might need this joy right now. Because there's a lot of stuff coming up that you might be weighed down by. Take the joy where you find it. Eat the grapes. Eat the grapes, right? They were given to you for a reason. It doesn't do us any good to stifle our joy. It doesn't do us any, in fact, it doesn't do us any good to stifle any part of that. Our joys or our sorrows. We are whole human beings. We are meant to experience that. If you are stifling your human experience, you're also stifling part of your expression of the divine in this world. We are meant to be whole. It also means we don't live in the negative. So if you're angry, feel the anger and then let it go. Make a choice to resolve, right? If you're feeling sad, great, feel it. Grieving, go through it. Happy, embrace it. And then let it go. It's part of our journey. The daily word today said, I honor God each time I share my joy. As I bless myself by feeling joyful, I bring more love, more peace, and more happiness to the world. The world needs more love, more peace, and more happiness, more than ever. So if your joy is bringing more love, more peace, more happiness, feel it. And I know sometimes there's a guilt in there, which can sometimes be why we stifle it. Like the whole Marianne Williamson, who am I to, right? Who am I to be happy right now when so many people are not? Who am I to actually get this great bounty of whatever it is when other people are going without? Who am I to talk about a wonderful relationship when I know other people are struggling with their personal affairs? But it's not your place to judge whether or not they need you. Your joy may be the beacon that helps them get out of it. Your relationship may be a goal that they can see that helps them understand where they are going. Don't hide your light under the bushel. Don't not experience your life. Again, you are not a spectator. Life is not a spectator sport, especially a spiritual life. There's a cartoon, and I wish I could have found it to put up here. It had come across social media, just like a 4-panel cartoon of a gentleman at a table, and there was this figure behind him called Life, and it had this big ball of blackness. It's like, ha, here I am. With the unsuspecting person, I'm going to give you this big ball of pain. And so, with no dialogue, Life hands the man pain, so he's sitting there holding his pain. And then in the final panel, Life is getting upset because the man has formed it into a little castle. And he's like, no, you're not supposed to make art out of it. That's right. That's alchemy. Life gives us pain and we create art. Life gives us challenges and we create love. Life gives us loss and we find the joy. That's alchemy. In Unity, we talk a lot about affirmations. We talk a lot about denials. Sometimes they go by other names. And I want to be clear, whenever you hear that term in Unity or in New Thought, a denial is not the psychological version of a denial, which means I'm refusing to believe this. It's like, oh, this person died. No, they didn't. They did not die, right? Or, oh, I lost my job. No, if I just go back tomorrow, I can get my... No, that's denial in the psychological sense. In the spiritual sense, denial is, yes, that person died. Yes, I'm going to miss them, but that does not mean I cannot move forward in life. Yes, I lost my job, and that does not define me. I am bigger than any job. That's denial and affirmation. So just to be clear about that. And we can also sometimes get a little out of hand with the affirmations, the positivity. We are a positive environment. We intend to be positive. It is intentional because positivity breeds positivity. Studies even show that people who are positive, people who have the optimistic outlook, have better health results because they are expecting better results. Be an optimist, by all means. But positivity can stretch into toxic positivity. And especially when we're dealing with others, but we also do it to ourselves. So that friend comes up and it's like, oh, my girlfriend broke up with me. You know, you are such a good person. It's for a good reason. You're going to find somebody better. Lovely. They still feel terrible. We did nothing to address what they're going through. We only tried a little spiritual bypass to move around the ugly stuff of humanity. That's not what positivity is for. That statement might work better down the road once they've moved through the pain. In that moment, your goal is to help them with the pain. I was reading an article, in fact, by Kendra Cherry. She's a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. Say that 5 times fast. And she was talking about some of the reasons why we do this and what it sometimes sounds or looks like. So we will often do this to avoid the feelings of anger. We will do it to focus on the spirituality but ignore the present moment. We will do it to focus on the positive into that overly positive, overly optimistic, overly toxic positivity. We will do it to pretend that things are fine when they are clearly not. And we will do it so that we can rise above our emotions. Because we want to be better than our emotions. And this will come out in phrases like, everything happens for a reason. It was for the best. You know, it was a blessing in disguise. I always love this one. Good vibes only. And everybody's favorite, we could probably even say it together, thoughts and prayers, right? These are bypasses. These are things that don't address the situation. These have a place often later. In the moment, these are inappropriate, right? These are ways of not dealing with it. And we come from a place of caring, right? We care about people. We don't want to see them hurting. But sometimes the best thing to do is just sit with their hurt. Don't turn your back on it. There's another graphic coming up of the 3 different types of mind. So one is the emotional mind. We know the emotional mind, right? It's impulsive, not rational, based on whatever we're feeling at the moment. We've got the rational mind. The rational mind is often where we think we want to live, right? Because it makes sense. We can figure it out. We can intellectualize it out. And believe me, that's a place in my younger years where I loved to live because I could avoid the emotional side. The wise mind is where the two overlap. You feel it and you rationalize. You honor the emotions and you take care of what also makes sense. Hard place to live because so often relationships pull us this way, family pulls us this way, traffic pulls us this way. Work may pull us that way, may pull us into the rational where we have to really, it's all brain stuff, right? It depends. Trying to live in that middle, it's a great place to be. The goal to get back to. For me, I'm also a visual person, which is why this works well for me. Another visual that works to remind me of this is our Unity wings. So we've got the Unity wings. Some of you are more familiar with those than others. This was created by Charles Fillmore. He said they came to him in a vision. He acknowledged that the winged disc is an old symbol. It was used in ancient Egypt and other ancient civilizations. And in this case, for unity, it represents the relationship existing between spirit, soul, and body. And I want to address those terms a little bit because soul in unity terminology is a little different than we often think of it. So, For unity's purposes, metaphysically, the spirit, the soul, and the body is like the wholeness of mankind, humanity. We are whole with spirit, soul, and body. The spirit is the I am. It's the actual divine mind character, right? It's that energy. Whereas the soul is our consciousness. Both the conscious and subconscious mind are considered the soul. It is our personality. That is personality. That is what Charles means when he says the soul, because we often think of soul and spirit as interchangeable, whereas this is more of the consciousness, right? And then body, that expression of the divine showing up in the world. This is how we show up. So this symbol, the soul, is what gives wings to the body. So we've got the circle of the body, the wings of the soul. All of that is surrounded by spirit. That is through what it rises up. That is the meaning of that symbol. As opposed to the Egyptian wings, where you have a winged sun disk, and that representation is about power and royalty and divinity as well. Or, I love that, like, when I had seen this before, the Zoroastrian figure, the Farbahar, which may or may not be familiar to some of you, but if you go into the next image, it's from Persia, from ancient Persia, and it features, allegedly, Ahura Mazda, the god figure, in the middle of it. And again, you've got the body, the spirit, the wings. And the thing about this symbol for me, going into Zoroastrianism, is the three primary tenets of Zoroastrianism are right thought, right word, right deed. In other words, this month's affirmation, I draw upon spirit to guide my thoughts, words, and action, goes all the way back to ancient Persia. There is nothing new under the sun. We just forget things, and we rediscover them, and we reinterpret them, and we repurpose them. But this work has been going on since the beginning. So, I want to go into a very brief meditation. Michael, if you wouldn't mind playing a little under it, I would appreciate that. So before we do the meditation, I want you to take just a moment. We're going to go back to kind of that yes and thing. The unexpected, the undesired, the unfair in your life or in the world. I want you to think about something that may be current, or maybe you're anticipating it in the very near future. And it could be minor. Maybe it's a family member or a friend or a coworker that you're just dealing with. Maybe it's health. Maybe it's finance. Maybe it's something from nature, maybe the weather. Maybe it's just humanity. Maybe it's your community or your country or the whole world. What have you been resisting saying yes to? What have you been resisting accepting so that you can move forward? What is keeping you stuck? And I want you to hold onto that thought. Make sure your feet are flat on the floor. You can put your hands in your lap or over your heart and close your eyes or lower your gaze. Take a nice deep breath in and hold it for just a moment, and then release it. Continue breathing deeply, but I want you to place that breath coming in through the top of your head, your crown chakra. Just bring energy down into your body. Deep breaths in and out. And then move that focus down to the pit of your stomach, your wisdom center. Deep belly breaths in and out. And if it feels right to you, let my words be your words. I draw upon Spirit to guide me on this day. There's only one presence in this universe and in my life. God the good, the divine Spirit which also dwells in me. Spirit, guide my thoughts, through which I co-create my life and my world with you. Allow me the serenity to accept that which I cannot change. Spirit, guide my words to be words of love, words of compassion, and words of growth. Spirit, guide my actions. Allow me to move beyond acceptance, to make the choices that will change my life and change the world. I am my thoughts, my words, and my deeds, and I am more than the sum of these. I am my mind, my breath, and my action, and I am more than the sum of these. My soul, my consciousness, my subconsciousness gives wings to my body, which is my worldly expression of the divine in my being, and I am enveloped in the Spirit through which I rise. I am surrounded by the field of all possibility. And now in this field of all possibility, I see the truth of the situation I have not yet accepted. I see my fears and my negative thoughts, and I honor them and hold them briefly, treating each tenderly. And then I let them move through me so that I am free to follow my soul's purpose. I do this as we go into a brief silence. As you bring your focus back to the room, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. When you're ready, open your eyes. And I want to finish by reading the poem, The Guest House, by the Sufi poet Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So don't allow the world to make you change your message. Eat the grapes you are given. Drink from the cup. Carry out your soul's purpose. Accept the reality in which you live, and accept your divine calling. And know that by following it, you will leave an impact larger than yourself. Amen, Amin, Aho, Ashe. And so it is. Namaste.